Welcome to the Internet of Things equation, a podcast when I talk about the Internet of Things domain both from the technical and business perspectives. I'm Łukasz Malinowski, the Internet of Things advisor and trainer. And today I've got a pleasure to meet with my friend and IoT professional Ulf Seijmer. Ulf has operated in IoT space for quite a long time now, in acting various roles, including the Chief Innovation Officer, Chief Technology Officer, Business Owner, and the board member of the IoT Alliance. Hello, Ulf. Thank you for taking time to meet with me today.
Hi, Lucas. Always nice to see you.
Could you briefly introduce yourself to the audience? Because you've got quite a track record in the IoT space, and yeah, it's always interesting to share the insights and your history with the audience.
Oh, sure. Well, I actually started in what we see to be the preamble of the IoT business in the early 1990s. So 1994, I got my first job, and I was connecting things remotely, monitoring water levels and pump pressures and so on in a SCADA system using wireless technology. And well, already way back then, we saved resources by reducing travel and being able to remote monitor things. And well, long story short, I'm still in this business, gathering insights and data from various sensors. And today, my day job is at the Induo as a chief innovation officer, and I also run another company called AKKR8, where we basically develop the sensors and IoT devices. And Induo is more of distribution.
Yeah, so you've got a few companies when you participated in. So could you give us some hints about starting the IoT business? What are the most important factors that one needs to consider before actually starting the business focus on the Internet of Things?
Well, one thing to remember is that starting any business is hard, right? And if you want to enter the Internet of Things, there are already many companies present on the market today. So if you can find your niche and well, make sure that you start the company with people that have the endurance to actually fulfill the IoT journey, because starting from scratch, building a company, it takes time and it takes energy. And in the beginning, you have to be fond of eating a lot of pasta and not going to Michelin restaurants, and then hopefully later on you will be able to join the restaurants.
Yeah. So, according to various estimates, up to 75% of IoT initiatives fail. That's a huge number, right? And what is the main cause of those issues? Like, what makes IoT business so hard that most of companies fail at the very beginning?
Well, I think there could be several aspects of this figure. One is that being a sort of a hype market where it has a lot of hype, it attracts people that thinks that just because the Internet of Things is a hype word, it's easy to build some company and scale it fast and sell it to someone else for large sums of money. The other thing I think is basically because, well, there are a lot of companies testing this as they think it's a new technology, and sometimes the business scope isn't really in place. They test it because it's fun. They really don't know where to where to go, so to say, what do they want to achieve. And I think that looking at it from a business perspective and involving the whole organization, and understand where it fits into an organization, well, that is fundamental to be successful with IoT.
Yeah, I think that's a great point that IoT is not about technology. at the end of the day, right? It's all about the business side. And if someone is focusing purely on the technology, because for me at least, technology is fun, right? But technology by itself does not provide any business value. So I'm totally agree with you that starting from the business mind perspective and keeping that perspective all the time actually increases your chances of success, right? Um, but starting is one thing, and then how you can grow your business, because it is getting even more complicated after the initial launch. How do you scale an IoT business? What could you suggest as the owner and person that is very, very experienced in this area?
I think the one of the most important things is to I'll say sometimes revert back to the original Apple strategy from the early 80s, late 70s, where you focus on just a few things and make sure that you do them really, really good, and that you also look at all the aspects of your offering and make sure that you have all the aspects in control, and don't try to do too many things at the same time. Just try to focus on bits and pieces and build it from there.
Yeah, I think that keep it simple is a great piece of advice as well. Because when we look at the potential of the IoT, like it got unlimited potential, right? But if you try to build like huge platform from the very beginning, probably you would fail. And on the flip side, building a huge platform doesn't really bring any value, right? Because we've got those hyperscalers that got huge platforms, and probably niching down on some specific business or maybe some specific vertical. I believe that would bring a bit more uh, chances of success. Speaking about niching down and verticals, at what stage do you think should we look for the partners and should we build the trusted ecosystems? Because IoT is a huge field to play in, and there is probably no way to build all the know-how internally. So how do you think about partners, and how do you think about building that trusted ecosystem that helps you to achieve your mission?
Yeah, I think it is very hard to be successful in all the different aspects of an IoT project. I mean, if I know there are people out there that they don't like the word ecosystem, but I'll use it anyway. And well, you can contact me later if you don't agree with the term. But I believe the IoT ecosystem consists of, simply put, a device, some kind of connectivity, and somewhere you store your data. And in some cases, you store your data and you access your data to get insights from the same platform. And in some cases, you just forward the data to another system that will interpret data. Could be some kind of presentation software. It could be your internal systems, your AI that will interpret data, and so on. But all these different aspects, it's hard to be expert at all of them. So I mean, we are experts in hardware. We work with partners for connectivity that can manage the connectivity layer, and we also work with partners that can help uh, data to be stored at the right place using uh, the best aspects of treating data to get the best integrity and so on. So I think that approaching the market, I would say that quite early on, decide who will be your partners at the different aspects of the ecosystem, who to work with, and it's just easier to consider this very early on, so you don't end up with a situation where you haven't looked at, well, you have a product, but there's nowhere you can store your data. So it's just easier to incorporate the whole ecosystem from the start, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. And you mentioned that you provide hardware products, and there is a saying that hardware is hard. Would you agree with that statement? And if yes, what makes hardware part so hard in the IoT space?
Yeah, it's hard. You can tell from my gray hair that it's hard. It's physically straining to work with hardware. No, but seriously, I come from the background of distributing products. So the first 25 years in this business, I was a distributor. In the late, like 4 or 5 years ago, we decided to also complete the task of developing a product, and we thought it would be hard, and it was hard, but it was probably harder than we anticipated. So there are so many aspects of developing hardware. And throughout the years as a distributor, I've been at trade shows and meeting customers and so on, and presented the product and gave the price. And from time to time, people say, "Oh, that was an expensive product, but we can develop that one ourselves, and it will probably be 1/10 of the cost." Today, I can say, "Okay, sure, fine, go ahead." Now I know what it takes to actually develop products, and well, I'm happy if someone wants to develop more products, but it also is a very, very long journey and a lot of things to bear in mind.
Yeah. So, if you could dive a bit deeper, to get your experience in this area. So, what we should factor in when launching a hardware solution, right? So, even
Mm.
before the launch, if you just want to create something because you think that you can, as in your example, someone may think I can do that cheaper and it's going to be better than the competition. So, what should we really factor in before we even start the design of the hardware itself?
Well, it is actually it's a long process, and I can just briefly take you through the whole process of what it takes to design a product. So we are not in the position where we have our own hardware designers. We do have firmware people, but we don't have hardware people. So first of all, you lay out a basic idea what you want to achieve, what kind of components, what kind of inputs, what kind of power supply, what kind of connectivity, temperature, tolerances, and all these various things. So in our case, we basically designed the product with our own prototype circuit boards. Very, very easy to just, I'm not an expert. I know some electronics, but not that much. So we laid out a simple um, circuit board, and we purchased breadboards with the different sensors, and we just simply connected this to this breadboard. We got the firmware working, and that was sort of the first test phase. And from there on, we designed the product with a professional hardware designer that basically incorporated all these sensors on the board that we have been tested on breakout boards.
Mhm.
So from there on, we got the product, and we had to rewrite the firmware again because the hardware designer had another idea than we had when it came to communicating with the sensors. And from there on, we designed the product. It was ready to be put on the market, but then you have to have sort of CE marking in place and some other testings. And just to test the product for CE, we had to rewrite the firmware a third time, because when you send a device to the lab, they should be able to just bring it out of the box, and it should be able to do everything automatically, check all the inputs, outputs, and set the inputs high and low, and so on. And somehow you need that data to be presented. So we basically had to rewrite the firmware and make a simple server application just for the CE testing. And after that, well, then the product was ready to be put on the market. So there are there are a lot of steps to take on this path, and I wasn't. I wasn't aware that we were had to just rewrite the firmware a second time just for the CE testing. Um, but we managed to do that. But that was a hurdle. Another issue we had is that we believe a lot in sustainability, and we wanted to step away from the disposable batteries and wanted to incorporate the battery that was being able to charge, and that was also quite problematic to find a battery during COVID that was available and that would meet all the security standards. Also, to be able to charge the battery just when it's within certain temperature limitations and so on. So that there are a lot of different aspects, and these are just some that we have met during the development. But it's going from something with a Raspberry Pi or Arduino with the things on a breadboard to a ready-made product. It's a huge leap.
Yeah, I can tell. And I love the way that you describe it, because it might feel that it is kind of the waterfall approach, but actually it's very iterative. And what you said about the rewriting firmware like over and over again, you feel that like you've got the firmware right, you've tested it, it is doing what it's supposed to do, and then all of a sudden, because of some external cases, you need to rewrite it yet again, right? So I believe that impacts both your time and cost, right? Because time equals money. And probably this is one of the hidden reasons why so many IoT initiatives fail, because you've got some plan, like your roadmap, right? You've got your budget, and like it is pretty impossible to meet the time and the budget that you got at least the first time, right? And
Yeah.
what you're saying, it looks like it proves that you basically do not know what you're doing during the first time around. And what about the second and third time around? Do you can narrow down the issues and be a bit more better prepared to the whole
Yeah.
journey? Or what would you suggest? What are the lessons learned that you've got right now, for instance?
Yeah, the lessons learned is that we already know that there is going to be C testing when we launch the next version of the device, and we know what it takes. Luckily, I believe we have most of it saved from the first test, so it wouldn't be that hard. Um, so the lessons learned is that well, you can dream that it will cost a certain amount of money, and you may have a budget for that. And as you say, Lukas, I believe that you're often shooting way over the target, and you just have to understand that. I mean, there are other ways, of course. You can go out to a large company and basically ask them to design hardware for you, and you will get a fixed cost. But if you want to do it yourself, uh, then it will take some resources from you. That is, and I mean, there are other things that can happen along the way. I mean, the first batch we produced was during COVID. There were no circuits available, so we purchased circuits for the alarm inputs, and when they were finally assembled on the board, we realized that our subcontractor purchased something from the um, say the gray market, and it wasn't actually a real component. They got fooled, so they
Mm.
had to replace you know three components on all the boards produced. Luckily, that wasn't on our account, but there was no way from the outside you can tell the fake from the real component.
Yeah,
So
well,
that's also, if you're using a subcontractor, make sure that you have a rock solid agreement with them so that they take full responsibility for whatever components they purchase.
yeah, I think that this is great real life lessons learned, right? That you need to be extremely careful, because, as you said, you cannot tell just by looking at the board if the whole thing is real or not.
Mm.
So we've got a question from Samesh about how can you address competition in the IoT product space. So yeah, would you like to what
Yeah,
your thought
sure,
on it?
sure. Yeah, yeah. There is a lot of competition in the IoT market, and me personally, I know I don't have the cheapest sensor on the market. We have aimed at producing all of it in our local market in Sweden. So we have basically a high-end product when it comes to price, but we have also invested a lot in sustainability, where we're using rechargeable batteries and so on. So I believe it's a little bit about finding a niche where no one else has produced a similar product. But then after all, it's also about add how much business value can it add to the customer. Because at the end of the day, that's what they're going to purchase, not the hardware.
Yeah, exactly. So we've got two extremely important points here. One is that I do believe that we should not focus on competition as such. Like we should focus on what our end users really expect and need, right? And if we can deliver on that promise, then there is a huge chance that they will choose your offering. And on the other side, like, do you think that we can offer only the hardware without the extra advisory or guidance to the customers, or do we have like both? If someone just want to produce hardware, maybe they should think about finding a partner that can help with the advisory part. So what's your take on that?
Uh, Again, it comes back to your initial question about the 75% failure rate on IoT projects. I believe that, sure, we are a device manufacturer. Despite that, I always try to help the customer with as much of the implementation part as possible, because after all, I know the products and we can make it happen much faster. So if they need our help or advice, then it's easier for us to help them get started and focus on what they know. So our part of the ecosystem is to get the devices to send data to, well, basically the next part of the ecosystem.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I look at the Internet of Things from the ecosystem perspective, right? Because this is like, that's all it is, right? It's not about having a device connected to some kind of backend. It's more about that many-to-many connectivity and creating that ecosystem. And the same is true if you are a business owner, right? You are basically providing some kind of ecosystem and interactive with other parts of this ecosystem, right? So personally, I believe that we should not offer only the hardware products and make customers integrate those products with rest of the solution, right? Because it's basically not fair because we are the IT experts, not our customers, because they are expert in their domain, not necessarily from the uh, IT perspective. So speaking about the customers, could you give us some ideas? How do you predict the end user needs? Like, do you know that there is a niche in the market, or you basically go out and ask your potential customers or maybe past customers about what type of hardware offering and advisory offering would actually meet their needs? So, what's your take on that?
I believe that we designed the product from the market needs, or basically we designed our product to be able to fit different market needs, because we know that over time, when you produce a hardware platform, there will be new applications, and especially in this market where things are happening really, really fast. So we wanted to make sure that we have a device that could meet various needs. Um, I believe the most important thing is to don't do too much before you actually have a solid business case. I mean, there are tons of interesting discussions out there, and I mean, everything is possible as far as I see it. It's just a matter of hardware, software, and imagination. But it's sometimes very draining to run in one direction and be involved in a project that doesn't fly, so to say. So it's much better to be gentle and talk to your customers and find something with true potential, get some commitments, and then just execute on that.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. So, is there anything that you would have done differently, having your experience but starting your first IoT business right now? What would be like your advice to younger you, starting the IoT business from the first time?
Well, sometimes you ask yourself, should we really have done this? Looking back at all the work,
Yeah, well, maybe the answer is just do something fast, right?
uh,
That's
no. But seriously, I wouldn't advise myself to do that. But just to, I think that it is to look at the situation and be realistic about what time it takes to actually fulfill the dream or the project. And I'm an optimist when it comes to time, calculating. So um, if I would advise my younger self, I would just say that okay, this is the time it will take, and now multiply it with a factor of 5, and you will have the answer.
That's close enough based on my
Yeah.
experience. Yeah, like you should really put extra time and budget aside. Yeah. Okay. So going back to our current day, what services do you offer? Because like as I said, you wear a few hats in the IoT space. So if you could briefly summarize for everyone listening your current services and how can people reach out to you if they're interested in cooperating with you?
Yeah, sure. So we are. I work for Induo, a company that I also co-founded 15 years ago, together with two partners, and we work with IoT distribution. So we distribute devices from various companies, and if someone is interested in reaching out for possibilities to distribute their solution, please reach out to us. And also I'm running this other company, AKKR8, where we have developed sensors for the IoT market to basically cover different sensor needs and to send data to various platforms like AWS, ThingsBoard, Azure, IoT Hub, and whatnot. So that's basically my two roles.
Perfect. So, Ulf, once again, thank you very much for taking time to meet with me, to share experience with the audience, because I'm sure that it will help anyone considering starting the IoT business to be a bit more, on the safe side and maybe uh, go against the odds and actually succeed in the first run.
Very interesting. Thank you very much, Lucas, for having me, and always nice to have a chat with you.
Yeah, perfect. So, thank you, everyone. Once again, I'm Łukasz Malinowski, the Internet of Things advisor and trainer, and I will speak to you next time. Bye bye. Thank you for listening. Go to thefingers.com to find more materials about the Internet of Things domain. My name is Łukasz Malinowski, the Internet of Things advisor and trainer.